And good morning, and it's a pleasure to see you all on this rather foggy morning. So what I'd like to do today is build on some of the comments that Don's already made and highlight exactly some of the challenges we're facing and how BBRO has been responding to that with some of the new research initiatives, whether that's developing it in-house, in collaboration with other parties, or trying to leverage your levy so we can maximize its impact for future sugar beet production. So what I'd like to do this morning is cover some key areas. I think we just need to touch base and just refresh our minds with regard to some of the issues that we're facing when it comes to crop protection. Don's already highlighted the issues we're facing with plant protection products. How are we responding to that, and what are we trying to do to mitigate some of these issues? It also highlights the importance of the BBRO crop protection program, the yield stability section of the funding that Colin McEwen's already talked to you about this morning. And then what I'd like to do towards the end of my presentation is to highlight some of the new initiatives from 2015 that links to some of the new projects, some of the PhD studentships that we're developing in the crop protection arena, plus that leverage of money to build on the crop protection program. So a photograph that you'll see several times today, but I think this really epitomizes what we're trying to do with your crop. It's a photograph taken at the end of May 2014, and we'll talk more about the whole season later on this afternoon, but an incredibly healthy, good-looking crop at the end of May, showing just how well it is and can be to grow this crop under UK conditions. But we face challenges. A photograph taken in the fens that's been well looked after, but these are the key issues that we're having to face. It's all about trying to live with, influence, and adapt to potential European regulation on pesticides, potentially more with less. But then when we start to look at the issues we're facing, we're constantly having to battle with new issues, new diseases, but also changes in the populations of the pests and diseases we're working on, particularly things like aphids. And within the poster session, you'll be able to see much more on this with some of the work that's going on at Rothamsted and ADAS, closely working with ourselves at BBRO to highlight that. We also need to be mindful of climate change or climate differences that we see from a year-to-year basis that influences the impact, not only on the crop growth, but the diseases that can come into it. And it's trying to encourage the agricultural sector and the ag chem sector to register and develop their product base so that we have alternative strategies to control some of the issues that we're having to face. Because at the moment, we rely very heavily, if not totally, on the neonicotinoids for aphid control. We do not have, at the moment, any foliar insecticides that you could then apply to control the issues if we had to do so. So it's really trying to make sure that we have the tools to be able to do the job. That said, the breeders are doing an excellent job on developing the new varieties that we're using. So we now have Rhizomania partial resistance as a standard feature of the varieties. We now have additional Rhizomania resistance to tackle the more aggressive strains. Beet cyst nematode tolerance is up and coming and continues to improve with the varieties that you're now using. And we certainly need to be looking further afield, some of the new technologies that are coming on stream, and whether we need to be having some other varieties that may have enhanced tolerance to things like Rhizoctonia in the future. And it's using all those tools and technologies, whether that's through a conventional mean or more through biotech approaches, to ensure that we can develop and deliver the varieties for the future. And it's not just thinking about sugar beet, it's all the other things that you're very, very familiar with. But when we grow a crop in a season, we need to think about potential impacts of what's happened with the previous crop and how that influences what we can do in future. Particularly things like oilseed rape being a very good host for beet cyst nematode, which then can have a direct impact on the sugar beet crop, and vice versa in the arable rotation. So you've already seen the three areas of BBRO research: the yield progression, the harvest and storage, and the work that we do within that yield stability arena and the factors that influence that. We certainly have to live with a range of old enemies that have been well established, and we know an awful lot about some of these key issues, things like the aphids, Mysis persicae, and virus yellows, and using the seed treatments to be able to tackle that. The foliar diseases, it's been a step change in disease control in the last 10 years with the evolution of the fungicides that we're using, and I'll be able to talk a little more about the latest information that we have from that in this afternoon's presentation. But as I said already, nematodes and rhizomania have been here for a number of years now, and we were able to tackle it. But 12 months ago, I stood on this platform, this very spot, talking about new threats to the UK crop. And I flagged up what we were learning from European colleagues with new issues and highlighted to you to be mindful of this new foliar disease, stem phyllium. It was obviously very timely because in the summer we took the first phone call that led us to believe that we had stem phyllium in the UK. And we then confirmed that in Norfolk in the summer. It's a disease that does give me concern and just shows you how pathogens are very adaptable and make and use their niche in whatever opportunity they get. And I think what's happened is the spores of this particular disease have been blown across the North Sea and impacting on the UK crop. We've learned an awful lot from our European colleagues through the International Institute of Sugar Beet Research. And we've been able to use that information because they've been tackling this problem since 2007. The only concern I have is that the standard fungicides that you are using to control the rust and mildew and other diseases, really from the information that we're gaining from other parts of the world, are not that particularly effective at controlling stem phyllium. So it means we need to be looking at the toolbox, whether we need to be evaluating new products, new opportunities to be able to keep on top of this. Fortunately, epoxyconazole seems to have some activity, but we will certainly be doing some trials if need be, and we find some disease coming into the 2015 crop to be able to tackle this and give you the latest information to overcome the problem if we see it. Don's already highlighted the Anderson's report and the AHDB report. I think where the sugar beet sector is so well placed is being able to have the data at our fingertips to be able to supply and influence how these reports have been put together. The specific field survey data is an incredibly useful and powerful resource that many other sectors are incredibly envious of. So we're able to quickly analyze this, put together the necessary metrics to then influence and update and provide the information for those reports that went out and the discussions that have gone on from there. But it is concerning that the impact on some of the losses you've seen from Don, 40 to 87 products could be lost, and some of those are key influential products that we rely in the sugar beet sector. So it's continuing making sure that we are able to use what we have and keeping those for as long as possible, as well as adopting new technologies. So the BBRO crop protection program is a key element of the research that we do on your behalf and focuses around key areas, things like virus yellows and rhizomania. Foliar diseases, as I've said, the old and the new. Nematodes, well, that's Beet nematode, or the issues on free-living nematode that we see on up to around about 5% of the area. And also other diseases that we need to keep on contact, things like violet root rot and the other root rots. But what the BBRO undertook recently is a review of the crop protection program, and there were 40 recommendations that were drawn from that. What we try and do, as Colin's already alluded to, we can't do everything, so what we have done is concentrated on some of the key areas to ensure that we make sure that the future BBRO R&D program is up to date and is tackling those big issues that we may be facing in the future. So in 2015, we will be starting some new research areas. What I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about those. The first project, and it's key to emphasize, there we go, that these are in collaboration with the BBRO team. And this is tackling an issue that seems to be developing. It started about 4 or 5 years ago. It's not a new problem, as you're also probably aware, but mango fly or a leaf miner is normally tackled with seed treatments at an early stage and tends not to be a major issue. But what we have been seeing, and particularly in the last 2 or 3 seasons, is a greater activity of leaf miner, particularly around the Norfolk, Suffolk, and more recently around the Wash into Middle Lincolnshire. Is later attack of the crop by the mangle fly, laying eggs. These then, once they hatch, the larvae go translaminar and are a very, very difficult target to hit. And what's happening is they're coming into your crop at a time when you've applied your fungicides and then we're losing the canopy. Then the crop tries to compensate, regrowth, you're losing sugars and you're losing yield. So we have a new project that will start in April this year, closely working with Dr. Sasha White and his team at Boxer ADAS. And we will be looking at the distribution of mangle fly, but also looking at new control strategies to try and tackle this problem. Because it's those seed treatments that do an excellent job for up to 14, 15 weeks in the early season. It's trying to find the strategies to stop those other generations that are coming in later into the season and trying to lose that canopy loss at that particular situation. So when do we spray for those later generations? There does appear to be overlap between generations, which provides us an additional challenge. Trying to understand some of the relationships. We have thresholds for that first generation, but we certainly don't for generation 2 and 3. And are there alternative products that we can use that are able to control that? That will start in April this season. We also have a new project, an exciting project that will link BBRO to TGAC on the Norwich Research Park, because we know an awful lot about the fungicides that we're applying to sugar beet crops and canopies to control the diseases. But what we do not know enough about, and I think it's crucial that we do understand what we have out there, is the genetic diversity in the pouchy mildew and rust populations. Because I am sure that there will be populations that we need to be able to understand more, and whether or not they have different sensitivities to the products that we're using. And if we do potentially lose products, we need to use the ones that we do have to the best effect to control these diseases. So what we will do is and this is an example of one of our field trials that were taken by the BBRO field team back in Lincolnshire in September, showing clear benefits of using a fungicide approach to control next to the untreated plots. But if you were to walk into that canopy of the treated plot on the left-hand side, you will still find rust pustules. You can still find small levels of infection. And it's making sure that we can do and use the latest analysis, very similar to the work that's going on at the moment in adapting the ash dieback story that's going on at the John Innes Centre to try and understand and apply that to the sugar beet sector. So it's understanding the diversity in the populations that we have in mildew and rust. It's then understanding where they come from and how they're selected and whether or not there are differences in the populations, particularly once we've started to apply the various products, the triazoles, the strobilurins, and anything else that may go on those crops. So that's key to understanding, and hopefully it gives us much more information, stronger information, to control these problems. We've also entered into a program of PhD studentships. And one of those is a relationship that we've developed with Nottingham University, with Debbie Sparks and her team. But one that's very specific is the development of a new project that started last autumn. And Alistair Wright has taken on this project, and it's looking at the interactions between beet cyst nematode and sugar beet and catch crops. And working very, very closely with the existing work and the future work that the BBRO and others are doing in this area. But what Nottingham have is a very sophisticated, very valuable research tool, very much like an opportunity to visualize in a non-destructive way with the latest technologies root-related issues. So the problem we have with sugar beet, if we want to investigate underground, we normally have to get a spade and dig it out of the ground. When it comes to beet cyst nematode, if we want to see the impact on the roots, we're having to lift and assess in a destructive way. But they have the CT scanners now that some of you may be familiar with in a hospital environment. But they've adapted these, and now we can grow sugar beet in much larger containers, and these can be actually delivered into the scanners at the facility at Nottingham, which enables us to do much more sophisticated work. And you can hear much more about this from Debbie and Jenny Bussell and Tamara Fitters, other PhD student working in this area. But some of the outputs are really quite fantastic. This is a sugar beet root that's actually growing in real time, where they've been able to analyze it and strip back the soil, and you can see the actual rooting structure in the soil. And what we're going to do is use this facility to introduce nematodes and look at the impact on the nematodes in a real-time basis, potentially even seeing the nematode infection through this particular route of investigation. So really quite exciting ways of developing and understanding how sugar beet grows, but also how the pests and pathogens affect rooting of the future. And finally, again, building on what Colin McEwen said this morning, wherever appropriate, BBRO look to invest and build on your BBRO levy to maximize the research capabilities that we're able to do. And in 2014, there was a call that was launched by UK Innovate through the Technology Strategy Board on an area called Crop and Livestock Disease Challenges. This was launched in May, and we decided as an organisation with others that we would bid for money to try and look at two areas, one on virus yellows and one on foliar diseases. What we're trying to do is to build on this hybrid formula that we now adopt, where we have certain capabilities within the BBRO, but also to build relationships and strengthen what we do, not only with the institutes and universities and industry, to ensure that we can deliver some large wins for the future. And it's not just working with biological scientists. It's important that we are talking to people like engineers and communication specialists alongside people like myself as a scientist, so we can actually understand and produce some of the tools and technologies that are going to make a major impact on the future of UK crop production. So, to my surprise, and to the great thanks of all involved, we actually won both projects. It's a major coup for the BBRO and enables us to do so much more for the money that we gain. The first project is a consortium approach with BBRO leading, with a total cost of just short of 1.5 million. And it's looking at innovative disease monitoring and diagnostics to improve crop production. It involves, as I said, BBRO, but working closely with AB Sugar and British Sugar. Also involves Crop Performance Limited and Burkhard Instruments, an engineering company, alongside Rothamsted and Nottingham, as I said, with the umbrella Innovate UK. And basically, in a nutshell, we are going to have a lab in a box in a field with the latest diagnostics that are going to be monitoring spores, capturing spores, using the diagnostics to give a real-time signal back to your smartphone so we can analyze, alert, and act on a real-time basis, rather than relying on scouts and a much more sophisticated approach. You'll hear a lot more of this in the future, but it's our first project that will start in April 2015, and this will run for the next 3 years. The second project that we were fortunate to win is building on some of our research capabilities on virus yellows. And you all know my concerns, and I've said many a times, if we lose the neonic seed treatments in sugar beet, you know, those tools have provided an excellent approach for the last 20 years since we've been using them for a whole host of pests and related diseases. We just don't have alternative strategies. So it's building on the breeding work that we've been working on previously. Again, BBRO lead this project, closely working with two breeding companies, Syngenta and Cess van der Haave, and it involves Lucy James, who used to closely work with Beet, now at ADAS, to develop these varieties for the future. Again, it's a 5-year project. It has to be 5 years because when it comes to breeding sugar beet, it takes 18 months to go from seed to seed, and to take that through to yield trials, it actually will take 60 months to do that. But we've got some exciting material which potentially will provide an alternative strategy through either tolerance or partial resistance for the future. So again, we will keep you updated on this. It will provide some alternatives. It's not a quick fix or a replacement for the neonicotinoids, but it just demonstrates that we have gained extra support in a key area, a key problem that we have to face because of our maritime climate in the UK. So I'll draw my presentation to a close. I think the arable sector does face significant challenges with potential restrictions on the plant protection products. But we just need to be smarter and wiser and using what we have and protect what we have to ensure that we can continue to deliver the excellent crops that we are capable of in this country. We need to be able to review all possible options and new technologies and adopt and adapt wherever necessary to ensure that we do control the existing or potential future diseases and pests and weeds that we may face in sugar beet and across the rotation, and whether or not we can tackle some of the issues that we do face in sugar beet and other approaches. So, for example, if beet cyst nematode is a problem not only in sugar beet, we ought to be potentially encouraging the breeders to develop beet cyst nematode tolerance in oilseed rape varieties of the future as well. But the great news is I think sugar beet has a great track record of exploiting technology and the tools, and long may that continue. And as you've seen this morning, we have a new range of products that will complement the existing program that will hopefully continue to push the yields of sugar beet forward and keep your crop healthy. So many thanks for your attention, and if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. A good overview there of the work that BBRO is doing and is about to embark on, and I think you can see there's some exciting projects coming our way in the near future. Are there any questions for Mark, please? You can hold your programs up so we can see, or be brave, shout out. No questions?
Okay. Sorry, Keith Jaggard. I was interested, Mark, that you're busy getting work done on the genetics of rust. Are you doing that because you've some evidence that some chemicals are failing to control some strains?
No, I don't think that's the case, Keith. But what I am concerned is we don't know enough information at the moment. We know a lot about how the products work, but as we know with other foliar diseases, particularly on the continent, things like Cercospora leaf spot, there's an awful lot of diversity that is really challenging the different products they're using. And I think we just need to know and understand a lot more about the diseases that we have that are key to the UK around rust and mildew to try and get some baseline information that may or may not in the future influence how we use some of the fungicides that are going onto the crop, or some of the other products that we may see coming on and develop for the future as well.
Any more for Mark? Time for one more question. All happy? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.